Sarah adjusted the strap of her worn-out backpack and stepped up to the massive iron gates. They loomed over her, tall and imposing, with intricate patterns that probably cost more than her entire rent for the past year. She pressed the intercom button and waited. Nothing. She glanced at the paper in her hand. Daniel Cross, private home care job, full discretion required. The agency had told her he was a difficult man, but the pay was too good to ignore. She pressed the button again. A low buzzing noise filled the air as the gates creaked open. She swallowed hard and stepped inside. The stone pathway stretched ahead, leading to a mansion that looked like it belonged in a movie. It wasn't just big, it was isolated. No neighbors. No passing cars. Just endless trees lining the estate. As she reached the heavy wooden doors, they swung open before she could knock. A tall, stiff-looking man in a black suit stood there. His sharp eyes examined her from head to toe, as if assessing whether she was worth letting in. "You're late," he said. Sarah frowned. "I wasn't given a specific." "Follow me." The man turned on his heel and disappeared inside. She hesitated. Something about the house didn't feel right. But she needed this job. Exhaling, she stepped in. The Millionaire in the dark. The air inside smelled expensive, polished wood, fresh linen, and a faint trace of cigar smoke. The grand chandelier above cast long shadows across the marble floors. Everything was pristine, yet it felt empty. The man in the suit led her through a long hallway, stopping in front of a heavy oak door. He turned to her. "Mr. Cross doesn't like questions. Do your job, and there won't be problems." Before she could respond, he pushed the door open. Inside, dim lighting cast soft shadows across a massive bedroom. Sarah's eyes adjusted, landing on the figure in the large bed. Daniel Cross. Even injured, he looked powerful. His face was sharp, with a hint of unshaven stubble. His left leg was in a cast, propped up on pillows. A deep scar ran down his forearm, and his knuckles were bruised. His eyes met hers, piercing and unreadable. "You're the new one?" he asked. Sarah nodded. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied her, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the blanket. "Close the door." She obeyed. Silence stretched between them until he finally spoke again. "I don't need small talk. Do what you're paid for, and we'll get along." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. She had worked with difficult clients before, but something about Daniel felt different. "I understand," she said. "I'll take care of your medication and—" "Whatever you hear at night," Daniel interrupted, his voice lower now, "ignore it." Sarah's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Daniel's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. A soft knock came from the door. The suited man stepped in and placed a tray of food on the bedside table. He looked at Sarah. "Dinner is at 7. You'll stay in the guest room at the end of the hall. Don't wander." Sarah opened her mouth to ask a question, but the man had already turned to leave. Daniel reached for the glass of water on his nightstand, but his injured arm trembled. Reflexively, Sarah stepped forward to help. "I don't need. I'm just passing it to you," she said firmly, handing him the glass. Their fingers brushed. His skin was warm, but his hands were rough, like someone who had worked with them his entire life. She had assumed he was just another spoiled millionaire, but now she wasn't so sure. Daniel said nothing. He took a sip and set the glass down. "You can go now," he muttered. Sarah hesitated, then turned to leave. As she reached the door, he spoke again. "You locked the gate behind you, right?" She frowned. "It closed automatically." Daniel didn't reply. But the way his grip tightened on the blanket made something in her chest tighten. The whisper in the dark. Sarah's guest room was beautiful but impersonal. A large bed, expensive decor, and thick curtains that blocked out all outside light. She dropped her bag onto the chair and let out a breath. What had she gotten herself into? She had worked night shifts before, but this house felt off. Too quiet. Too cold. She lay down, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, a clock chimed. Midnight. And then, a noise. Sarah's body tensed. A creak. Then another. Footsteps. She sat up, listening. Soft murmurs drifted through the hallway. Her heart pounded. She reached for her phone. No service. Another noise. Closer this time. She slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the door. Pressing her ear against it, she strained to hear. A whisper. Her breath hitched. Slowly, she turned the doorknob, cracking the door open just a sliver. The hallway was dark, except for a faint glow from the main corridor. Something moved at the far end. A shadow. Sarah's pulse raced. Someone was in the house. And they weren't supposed to be. A face in the shadows. She shut the door as quietly as possible, locking it. Her hands trembled as she backed away. Had Daniel heard the noise too? She glanced at the landline on the nightstand. Would calling someone make it worse? The whispering stopped. Silence. Then, a soft knock at her door. Her stomach twisted. The knock came again, gentle but deliberate. Sarah gripped the edge of the nightstand. "Who's there?" she whispered. No answer. She held her breath. The door handle twisted. A cold rush of fear shot through her veins. She stumbled back, pressing herself against the wall. The handle rattled again. Then, nothing. Minutes passed. Maybe more. She stayed frozen, heart thudding, until exhaustion took over. The next thing she knew, the morning light was peeking through the curtains. Had she imagined it? She checked the door. Still locked. But something was different. The edge of her nightstand drawer was slightly open. She hadn't touched it. Inside, a folded note sat on top of the hotel-like stationery. Her hands shook as she picked it up. Scrawled in jagged handwriting were 4 words. "You shouldn't be here." Sarah stared at the note, her pulse hammering against her ribs. The handwriting looked rushed, almost desperate. "You shouldn't be here." Her fingers clenched the paper. Someone had been inside her room while she slept. She scanned the space again, searching for any sign of disturbance. The nightstand drawer was slightly ajar, but everything else looked untouched. Who left this? Her eyes darted to the door. Still locked from the inside. That meant they had been here before she locked it. A chill crawled up her spine. She grabbed her phone. No service. Of course. The mansion felt even quieter this morning. The thick curtains muffled the outside world, making it impossible to tell if it was even daytime. She needed answers. Taking a deep breath, she folded the note and tucked it into her pocket. Then, she unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway. Secrets behind locked doors. The air felt heavier outside her room. Like the house itself was watching. She walked carefully, avoiding the spots where the wooden floor creaked. The hallway was lined with closed doors, each identical, their dark wood polished to perfection. Something about them unsettled her. Had she really been alone in the house with Daniel and the stiff-suited man last night? Because it didn't feel that way. She reached the main corridor and paused. Voices. She couldn't make out the words, but she recognized one of the voices, Daniel. The other voice? Lower. Harsher. She edged closer, pressing herself against the wall near the slightly open door. Not safe here anymore. The deep voice spoke first. Daniel's reply came, quieter but sharp. I don't care. She stays. A long pause. Then the other man's voice turned colder. If she stays, she learns the truth. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Were they talking about her? Before she could hear more, the door creaked. She backed away fast, slipping into a side hallway. Footsteps approached. She barely had time to duck behind a decorative pillar when the suited man walked out. His expression was unreadable as he passed, but his hands were clenched. What truth? And why did Daniel want her to stay, despite the warning? Face to face with danger. Sarah knew she should play it safe, but something about the note, the whispers, and the conversation told her one thing: she needed to confront Daniel. She found him in the library, sitting in a leather chair near the window. Sunlight streamed through, making his sharp features look even more defined. He had a book in his lap, but his fingers didn't turn the pages. He knew she was there. Sleep well? He asked without looking up. Sarah stepped forward. Not really. Daniel finally met her gaze. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. A warning? A test? She pulled the note from her pocket and placed it on the table beside him. Who wrote this? His jaw tightened. She waited. Finally, he exhaled and leaned back. Where did you find it? In my nightstand. Someone was in my room, Daniel. Her voice was steady, but inside, she was screaming. His fingers drummed against the chair's armrest. Did you see anyone? No, she folded her arms. But I heard whispers. And footsteps. Don't tell me I imagined it. He was silent for a long moment. Then, his next words made her blood run cold. You didn't imagine anything. Sarah's stomach twisted. Daniel closed the book and set it aside. You should leave. Her heart pounded. Why? A muscle in his jaw twitched. Because I can't guarantee your safety. She clenched her fists. Then tell me what's happening. Who's in this house? Daniel hesitated, then leaned forward, lowering his voice. You think I'm alone here? He murmured. Sarah's pulse raced. He met her gaze, and for the first time, she saw something beneath his cold exterior: fear. The house with hidden eyes. Sarah had a choice. She could walk away, pretend none of this happened, and never return. But something about Daniel's fear made her stay. Tell me the truth, she demanded. Daniel rubbed his temples. You're too stubborn for your own good. She didn't move. He sighed. I bought this house 6 years ago. It belonged to another family before me. A family that disappeared. Sarah's breath hitched. Daniel continued. Everyone thinks they left in the middle of the night. No warnings. No goodbye. Just gone. Sarah shook her head. That doesn't make sense. People don't just vanish. Daniel's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. That's what I thought too. He leaned closer. But they never left. A cold shiver ran down her spine. What do you mean? She whispered. Daniel exhaled slowly. The house has hidden guests. Sarah swallowed hard. You're saying there are people living here that no one knows about? Daniel's gaze darkened. Not people. Her stomach turned. Then what? The air between them grew thick. Daniel finally answered. They were human once. A deep silence stretched between them. Sarah forced herself to stay calm. You're joking. Daniel didn't blink. Am I? She thought about the note. The whispers. The feeling that someone had been watching her all night. Her hands clenched. If this is real, why haven't you left? Daniel's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Because leaving won't save me. The midnight visitor. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Daniel's words echoed in her mind. They were human once. The mansion felt different now. The shadows in the corners seemed darker. The air, heavier. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her ears straining for any sound. 1:12 a.m. Silence. 1:47 a.m. A soft creak. Her body tensed. She reached for her phone. Still no service. Another creak. Closer. Sarah held her breath, gripping the blanket. Then. A knock. Her entire body went rigid. Not at the door. At her window. Her stomach dropped. Slowly, she turned her head. The thick curtains blocked her view, but she could feel someone on the other side. Her breath came fast and shallow. She had two choices: stay frozen and hope it went away, or see who, or what, was there. Her hand trembled as she reached for the curtain. Another knock. Her heart nearly exploded. She yanked the curtain open. Nothing. Just darkness. And then. A handprint on the glass. Her blood ran cold. The print was too large to be human. And it was on the inside. Sarah's breath hitched. The handprint on the inside of the glass sent ice-cold fear through her veins. She didn't move. Her mind raced for a logical explanation, but none came. Did someone come inside while she was asleep? A slow chill crept up her spine. She turned sharply, scanning the dark room behind her. Nothing. The silence pressed in. She reached out hesitantly, fingers hovering just above the print. The surface was cold. And then. A faint whisper. Not from outside. From inside. She spun around, heart hammering. Nothing. The air in the room felt heavier. Then she saw it. The closet door. It was slightly open. Had it been like that before? Sarah's breath quickened. The darkness inside the closet looked deeper than it should have. She wasn't alone. She knew it. Her hands balled into fists. She had two choices: run, or face whatever was in there. She chose the second. With slow, deliberate steps, she approached the closet. Her fingers curled around the handle. A pause. Then, she yanked it open. Empty. Her stomach twisted. Something wasn't right. The air inside the closet was ice-cold, much colder than the rest of the room. A scent lingered, damp, metallic. Sarah stepped back, pulse still racing. Whatever had left that handprint was gone. For now. Daniel's warning. Sarah didn't sleep the rest of the night. By dawn, she had made up her mind: she needed answers. She stormed into the dining hall where Daniel sat, sipping coffee like nothing was wrong. He looked up, raising an eyebrow. "You look like you saw a ghost." She slammed her hand on the table. "Someone, or something, was in my room last night." Daniel didn't flinch. "What did you see?" Sarah narrowed her eyes. "A handprint. Inside the window." That got a reaction. His fingers tightened around the cup. She pressed on. And I heard whispers. A long silence stretched between them. Then, Daniel sighed and set his cup down. "I told you," he said quietly. "They never left." Sarah's chest tightened. "Who are they?" Daniel's gaze darkened. "They were the original owners of this house. The Whitmore family." Sarah swallowed. "You said they disappeared." Daniel nodded. That's what everyone believes. Then where are they? His expression didn't change. Still here. Sarah's stomach twisted. You mean, ghosts? Daniel shook his head. No. Not ghosts. The room felt colder. Sarah leaned in. Then what? Daniel's voice dropped. There's something worse. The truth about the Whitmore family. Daniel stood and motioned for her to follow. Sarah hesitated but did. He led her down a hallway she hadn't seen before, one lined with old portraits. The faces stared down at her, their eyes dark and lifeless. Daniel stopped in front of a large painting. It showed a family, a man, a woman, and 3 children. The Whitmores. Sarah studied their faces. Something about their expressions unsettled her. Daniel pointed to the father. William Whitmore. A man obsessed with wealth and power. Then to the mother. Eleanor Whitmore. She never smiled. Not even in photographs. Finally, the children. They had 3 kids. But one of them, Daniel's voice lowered, was never seen outside this house. Sarah frowned. What do you mean? Daniel exhaled. The youngest son, Henry. People say he was sick. That's why they kept him hidden. Sarah's gaze locked on the boy in the painting. Unlike the others, his eyes looked wrong. Too dark. Too empty. A chill ran through her. And you think he's still here? Daniel's jaw clenched. I know he is. Sarah shook her head. That's impossible. He'd be dead? Daniel interrupted. Sarah nodded. Daniel turned to face her. Then explain the handprint in your room. A shudder ran through her. She had no answer. Daniel's voice was firm. The Whitmores never left this house. They changed. And now, they hide in the walls, in the dark corners. They watch. Sarah's blood ran cold. She whispered, You're saying there are things living inside the house? Daniel met her gaze. Yes. A terrifying discovery. Sarah didn't believe it. She couldn't. But part of her knew, something was here. She needed proof. That night, she made a plan. If something lurked inside the house, she would catch it. She set up her phone to record while she slept. Then, she turned off the lights and waited. Hours passed. The house was silent. 3:07 a.m. Sarah stirred awake. Something was wrong. The air felt heavier. She reached for her phone with trembling fingers. Her stomach twisted as she hit play. The first few hours showed nothing. Just her sleeping. Then, at 2:43 a.m., the closet door slowly creaked open. Sarah's breath hitched. A long pause. Then, a shadow moved. Not a normal shadow. It was too tall. Too thin. Its limbs moved unnaturally. Sarah's body went rigid. The figure crept closer, stopping inches from her bed. She slept, unaware. Then, the figure bent down. It whispered something in her ear. Sarah's pulse pounded. She couldn't hear the words, but she saw herself stir slightly in the video. The figure stood there. Watching. Then, as if sensing the camera, it turned. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The figure had no face. Only a smooth, pale surface where its features should be. And then, it vanished. The recording ended. Sarah dropped the phone. Her hands trembled. She wasn't alone. Something was in this house. And it knew she had seen it. A soft creak echoed from her closet. Sarah's heart slammed against her ribs. She wasn't ready. But whatever was inside the dark, was. Sarah's fingers fumbled with the phone. Her breath came fast, her chest rising and falling in sharp movements. The closet door was open. She hadn't opened it. A faint creak echoed from inside. Sarah swallowed hard. The video still played on her screen, frozen on the last image. That faceless figure standing by her bed. It had been here. It might still be. She took a step back, her body tense. The wooden floor groaned under her weight. A shift in the air, subtle, but there. Sarah's blood turned cold. She wasn't alone. A silent threat. Sarah's instinct screamed at her to run. Her body, however, refused to move. The darkness inside the closet felt alive, stretching deeper than it should. Then. A soft exhale. Not hers. It came from inside the closet. Her stomach clenched. Something was breathing in there. She couldn't see it. But it was watching her. A sharp knock on her door shattered the silence. Sarah jumped. Sarah? Daniel's voice was muffled but urgent. Open the door. She scrambled to the door, fingers shaking as she unlocked it. Daniel stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room. His gaze landed on the closet. His face darkened. You saw it, he said. It wasn't a question. Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. Damn it. I was hoping we had more time. Sarah finally found her voice. Time for what? Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the closet, stopping just inches away. He lifted his hand and placed it against the frame. Sarah, he said without turning. Whatever you do, don't make a sound. Sarah's pulse pounded. Then, Daniel yanked the door open. Nothing. The closet was empty. Sarah let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. But Daniel's body remained stiff. His hand trembled slightly. Sarah's relief faded. Daniel wasn't looking into the closet anymore. He was looking above it. Sarah followed his gaze. And then, her blood ran ice cold. Something was crouched on top of the closet. Its body twisted in an unnatural way, long limbs folded into itself. Its skin was sickly pale, stretched tight over bones. But its face. Or rather, the absence of one. A blank, smooth surface stared back at them. It didn't move. Sarah couldn't breathe. Then, it tilted its head. A deep, guttural sound rumbled from its chest. Daniel acted fast. He grabbed Sarah's wrist and yanked her out of the room. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind them. A loud, inhuman screech pierced the air from inside. Sarah flinched, heart hammering. Daniel didn't stop. He pulled her down the hall, his grip firm. She barely registered her surroundings. All she knew was one thing. She had seen it. And now, it wouldn't let her go. Secrets buried beneath. Daniel led her to the study, a large room lined with ancient books and a heavy wooden desk. He locked the door behind them. Sarah collapsed into a chair, trying to catch her breath. What the hell was that? Daniel leaned against the desk, rubbing his temples. The Whitmores, he muttered. Sarah shook her head. That thing, that wasn't human. Daniel exhaled. It used to be. Sarah stared at him. What? He finally looked at her, his expression grim. The Whitmores didn't disappear. They were cursed. Sarah's mind whirled. Cursed. By what? Daniel hesitated. By their own blood. Silence. Then. He walked over to a bookshelf and pulled out a thick, dust-covered book. He flipped it open, revealing old sketches and handwritten notes. Sarah leaned in. The drawings were disturbing, twisted humanoid figures with blank faces, their limbs elongated. Just like the thing she saw. Daniel pointed to a passage. The ink was faded but legible. The bloodline is tainted. It twists them. It binds them to the house, where the dark consumes what they once were. Sarah felt sick. You're telling me the Whitmores became that? Daniel nodded. Not all of them. Just one. Sarah frowned. Henry. Daniel's eyes darkened. Yes. Sarah's pulse quickened. But the video, there was more than one figure. Daniel's jaw tightened. That's what worries me. Sarah's stomach sank. You think the others? A loud bang cut her off. The door shook violently. Something was outside. Sarah froze. A slow, deliberate scratching sound followed. Then. A whisper. Low. Hoarse. Sarah. Her blood turned to ice. It knew her name. Daniel moved quickly, pulling out a drawer and grabbing something metallic. A gun. Sarah's eyes widened. That's not going to stop it, is it? Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he aimed at the door. The scratching stopped. Silence. Sarah held her breath. Then, boom. The door burst open. Something dark lunged. The thing in the walls. Sarah barely had time to react. A cold, clawed hand grabbed her arm. She screamed. Daniel fired. The bullet hit the creature, but it didn't fall. It shrieked, jerking backward, but it didn't stop moving. Sarah scrambled away, heart pounding. The thing twitched, its limbs jerking unnaturally. Then, it melted into the shadows. Sarah gasped. Where did it? Daniel cursed under his breath. The walls. Sarah's skin prickled. What? He turned to her, eyes intense. They can move through the house. The walls. The floors. The dark. Sarah's stomach dropped. No place is safe. Daniel grabbed her wrist. We need to go. Now. Sarah followed him out, her mind racing. The house, it was alive with them. Every shadow. Every dark corner. They were watching. Waiting. And they weren't done with her yet. Sarah's legs burned as she ran, Daniel's grip firm on her wrist. The dim hallway stretched endlessly before them, doors blurring past. Behind them, the walls whispered. The thing, or things, weren't gone. They were moving, shifting through the house like liquid shadow, slithering within the walls, the floors, the ceiling. Trapped. Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears. The air was thick, suffocating, as if the house itself was trying to choke her. Daniel yanked her into a side room and slammed the door shut. Silence. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, a slow, dragging sound came from outside the door. Sarah's breath hitched. It was right there. A long pause. Then, soft, deliberate knocks. 1. 2. 3. Sarah pressed a hand to her mouth. The knocks stopped. Silence. Then. A voice. Low. Raspy. Mocking. Sarah, let me in. Her blood ran cold. It sounded like Henry. A house that breathes. Daniel motioned for her to stay silent. He stepped back from the door, gun still in his grip. His face was set, his jaw tight. Sarah's fingers curled into fists. Is it Henry? She mouthed. Daniel's expression darkened. He shook his head. Sarah swallowed hard. Then what is it? Daniel hesitated. It's the house, he finally whispered. It remembers. Sarah stared at him. What do you mean? Daniel's gaze flicked to the walls. The Whitmores didn't just live here. They were swallowed by this place. It's a part of them now. And, they're a part of it. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. She thought back to the video, the figures in the dark. The ones standing over her bed. They're inside the house. Her voice barely made a sound. Daniel nodded. And it knows you're here. Sarah's stomach twisted. What does it want? Daniel's expression hardened. You. A sudden pressure filled the room, thick and suffocating. Then, the lights flickered. The temperature dropped so fast that Sarah's breath came out in a mist. And then, the walls exhaled. A deep, slow, shuddering breath. Sarah stumbled back, her heartbeat slamming against her ribs. The door creaked open. And standing in the doorway was Henry Whitmore. Or at least, what was left of him. A shadow that wears a face. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Henry's face was sunken, his skin a sickly gray. His lips pulled into a thin, unnatural smile. His eyes, black, endless voids. He stepped forward. Sarah's body refused to move. Daniel didn't hesitate. He raised his gun and fired. The shot rang through the house. Henry's body jerked back, then snapped forward. No blood. No wound. Like the bullet never even touched him. His mouth stretched wider. A dry, hoarse chuckle escaped his lips. Sarah felt sick. Daniel fired again. Click. The gun jammed. Henry moved. Too fast. 1 second, he was across the room. The next, he was in front of Sarah. Cold, dead fingers grabbed her wrist. Her skin burned where he touched her. Her vision blurred. Memories not her own flooded her mind. A woman screaming. A man laughing, his hands covered in blood. Darkness swallowing everything. Sarah gasped. Henry's lips parted. And in a voice that wasn't his, the house spoke. You're not supposed to be here. The world tilted. Everything went black. The dead don't forget. Sarah's body hit something soft. The cold was gone. Warm sunlight pressed against her skin. She opened her eyes. A garden. Lush green grass stretched endlessly, vibrant flowers swaying in the wind. A stone fountain stood at the center, its water glittering in the sun. Sarah sat up. The air smelled fresh, clean, real. Had it all been a nightmare? Beautiful, isn't it? A voice. Sarah turned, and froze. A woman stood near the fountain, her dark hair cascading down her back. She wore a flowing white dress, her delicate hands tracing patterns in the water. Her eyes met Sarah's. Sarah's breath caught. She had seen those eyes before. In the old family portraits. You're Margaret Whitmore, Sarah whispered. The woman smiled. Clever girl. Sarah's head spun. But, you're supposed to be dead. Margaret's smile faded. I am. Sarah's stomach twisted. Then where am I? Margaret turned to the fountain. This is where we rest. The ones who tried to escape. Sarah's blood turned cold. Tried? Margaret's eyes darkened. The house doesn't let go, Sarah. You were never meant to leave. The sky darkened. The air turned thick, suffocating. Sarah's pulse raced. How do I get out? Margaret hesitated. Then. You have to find the route. Sarah frowned. The route? Margaret nodded. The house was built on something dark. Bury it, and the curse dies with it. Sarah's mind whirled. Before she could ask more, the world shattered. She fell back to the nightmare. Sarah gasped awake. She was back in the house. The cold was unbearable. Henry was still in front of her, his grip tightening. Daniel shouted her name. Sarah clenched her teeth. She knew what she had to do. Her free hand shot up, grabbing the old necklace around Henry's neck. Margaret's pendant. The Whitmore heirloom. The moment her fingers curled around it, Henry screamed. A terrible, unearthly sound. His skin cracked, deep fractures forming across his face. Daniel grabbed Sarah, pulling her back. The house shook. The walls groaned, splitting open. Sarah's heart pounded. The house was collapsing. The curse, breaking. Daniel's voice was sharp. Sarah. Move. She ran. Behind them, the walls caved in. Darkness swallowed Henry whole. And then. Silence. Dust settled. The air was still. Sarah's chest rose and fell in rapid gasps. She turned. The house was gone. Not destroyed. Just gone. Nothing remained except a barren, empty plot of land. Sarah's legs gave out. She sank to her knees, breath shuddering. Daniel knelt beside her. It's over, he murmured. Sarah closed her eyes. She wanted to believe that. But deep in her bones, she knew. Some things never truly stay buried. Sarah woke with a jolt. Her breathing was sharp, ragged as if she had been running for miles. The air around her felt too quiet, too still, and yet, her heart thundered in her chest. She blinked, trying to adjust her blurred vision. She was lying on cold, cracked earth. Her hands were pressed flat against the dirt, her fingers trembling. There was no house. No walls. No dark figures or cursed shadows looming in the distance. Just the open sky and the eerie quiet that pressed down on her like a heavy weight. Was it over? It should have been. She glanced around. The land stretched before her, barren and empty. No signs of life, no evidence of the house that had once stood here, swallowing everything in its path. Had it really been destroyed? But something felt wrong. She couldn't put her finger on it, but the sense of unease gnawed at her like a hunger she couldn't satisfy. Sarah. The voice cut through the silence like a blade. Her pulse skipped, her body tensing instinctively. She spun around, her heart nearly stopping. Daniel stood a few feet away, his face pale and drawn, eyes wide with confusion and exhaustion. Are we dreaming? Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. Daniel shook his head slowly. No. I don't think so. He took a cautious step forward, and Sarah scrambled to her feet, her legs shaky from the sudden movement. She was still trying to grasp what had happened, trying to piece the fragments of her fractured memory back together. The curse had been broken. The house was gone. But this felt like something far worse than just the physical remnants of their torment. Where are we? She asked, her voice trembling with both fear and something deeper, desperation. Daniel scanned their surroundings, looking around. His eyes were narrow, suspicious. I don't know, he said finally, the words heavy with uncertainty. The emptiness stretched out in every direction. There was no sign of the house they had destroyed. No sign of anything that should have been here. Yet, an oppressive presence lingered. It felt like they were being watched, but from where, Sarah couldn't say. She turned, but before she could speak, a faint noise cut through the air. A soft, almost inaudible whisper, barely distinguishable from the wind. Sarah froze. Did you hear that? She asked, her voice barely audible. Daniel didn't respond immediately. His face grew taut as he listened. He nodded slowly, his hand instinctively reaching for the gun at his side. The whisper came again, louder this time. "You cannot leave." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Her body went cold with terror. The voice was unfamiliar, not Henry's, not the house's, but still, it felt like it was coming from within her. "What is that?" she whispered. Daniel's eyes were sharp now. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving. We're not alone." The invisible grip. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as Daniel tugged her forward. They walked in silence, each step sending ripples of dread through the air, as if the land itself could sense their presence. The whispering voice continued, growing faint at times, then coming back stronger, more insistent. There was no escape from it. "Leave." The words were colder now, darker, as if they were etched in ice. "What does it want?" Sarah demanded, her voice cracking. She felt the weight of something immense pressing down on her, something unseen. It wasn't just the land. It was the air itself, thick with an oppressive force that didn't make sense. "I don't know, but I can feel it too," Daniel muttered, his eyes scanning the horizon. His grip on her hand tightened as though to pull her closer, though there was nowhere to run. "We need to find shelter," Daniel said after a long pause. He turned his gaze to the sky, noticing the clouds beginning to shift unnaturally. The wind picked up, tugging at their clothes, threatening to throw them off balance. They walked in the direction Daniel thought was the safest, toward a jagged hill in the distance. As they walked, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was following them, a presence just at the edge of her awareness. She didn't want to look back, but her instinct screamed that if she did, she would see something standing there. Waiting. Her eyes darted around nervously, unable to settle on anything for long. The vast, empty land seemed to stretch on forever. There were no landmarks, no signs of civilization. Just earth and sky. Yet, somehow, everything seemed suffocating. The voice whispered again, louder now. "Turn back." Sarah's chest tightened. She couldn't stand it anymore. She turned to Daniel, her hands shaking as she gripped his arm. "Daniel, we can't keep going. Something's wrong. It's not just in the house anymore. It's here." Her voice wavered as she spoke. Daniel's face was set in determination, but she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the same fear that twisted in her chest. "I don't know what's happening either," he said. "But we have to keep moving. If we stop." "Then what?" Sarah interrupted. "If we stop, we die." Daniel didn't respond, his expression grim. He knew just as well as she did that they were both in danger. But from what? They reached the foot of the hill, climbing up with slow, deliberate steps. As they neared the top, Sarah felt a strange vibration under her feet, like the earth was breathing, taking in the air, releasing it in uneven puffs. She froze, her body stiffening with the realization. The whispers grew louder. Uncontrollable. They surged like a storm. "Sarah. Daniel, you cannot run forever." Daniel stopped short, his face pale. "It's here." The moment the words left his mouth, the ground beneath them trembled. Sarah stumbled, almost losing her balance, but Daniel's hand gripped her arm, steadying her. From the sky above, a crack formed, a jagged tear in the clouds. A cold gust of wind rushed through, pulling at their clothes, tangling their hair. Something sharp sliced the air, cutting through the silence with a sound like metal scraping against stone. Then came the figures. They were shadowy forms, flickering at the edges of Sarah's vision. Shifting. Evolving. One moment, they were human-shaped, then they stretched, elongated, twisting into grotesque, formless shapes. But through it all, they were watching. Sarah's skin prickled. Her blood ran cold. "We have to go," Daniel said urgently, tugging her once more. But before they could move, the ground beneath them began to shift. It cracked, splitting wide open like the earth itself was being torn apart. Sarah felt a pull, an invisible hand dragging her toward the chasm that had opened up. She screamed, her fingers clutching at Daniel's sleeve. The figures above began to descend. Falling. Chasing. Coming. Daniel yanked her back. "Run, Sarah. Run." Sarah's feet hit the ground hard as she sprinted, her heart hammering against her chest. The figures were still coming, shadowy shapes flitting at the edge of her sight, always just behind her, always watching. She didn't dare turn around. The chasm that had split the earth behind them seemed to yawn wider with every passing moment, a dark maw threatening to swallow them whole. "Daniel!" Sarah screamed, her voice cracking with panic. "Where do we go?" Daniel didn't answer. His face was a mask of sheer determination, his eyes scanning the horizon, always searching, never still. He didn't have an answer either. They were trapped in a nightmare with no clear way out. They reached a clearing in the distance, but it felt more like a trap than salvation. The air grew thicker, colder. And then, as if in response to their desperation, the ground trembled beneath them once again. "We need to find shelter, fast." Daniel barked. Shelter. But from what? The walls of the earth weren't going to protect them. The shadows were already here, already surrounding them. They were closing in, squeezing the life out of everything, everything but the cursed land itself. Suddenly, a shape appeared in the distance, a lone figure standing at the edge of the clearing. Sarah's stomach twisted as she tried to make out who it was. It wasn't Henry. It wasn't Margaret. This person was different. The stranger. The figure was tall, thin, their face obscured by a dark hood. Their clothes were ragged, torn as though they had been wandering the earth for centuries. But it wasn't the clothes that caught Sarah's attention. It was the air around them, the mournful, oppressive presence that seemed to cling to the stranger like a dark cloud. "Who are you?" Sarah called, her voice trembling. The figure didn't answer. They merely stepped forward, moving slowly but with purpose. As they neared, Sarah could feel the air shift, a coldness sweeping over her, more chilling than anything she had felt before. The whispering voices, the ones that had been haunting them, grew louder, more frantic, as though the figure was pulling them into their depths. Then, the figure stopped. Just a few feet away. They raised a hand, and Sarah felt an invisible force press against her chest, pushing her back, though they hadn't even touched her. "I am the one who sees all." The voice was deep, heavy, like thunder rolling across the sky. It was not a voice of comfort, nor a voice of pity. It was the voice of someone who had seen too much, someone who understood the true nature of things far beyond what Sarah could comprehend. "The house has claimed many souls." The figure's voice was a low rumble. "It feeds off their fears, their regrets. The ones who stay too long are lost to it forever." Sarah's pulse quickened. "What are you saying?" The figure's hood shifted slightly, revealing just a sliver of a face. The skin was gray, cracked, like dry parchment, and the eyes, those eyes, were deep, endless voids. "I have watched this place for centuries. I have seen what it does to people. I have seen it swallow their souls, twist their minds. But there is a way to stop it." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Stop it?" "Yes." The figure nodded slowly. "You have to sever the link. Destroy the source that gives it life. Only then will the land be free." "The source?" Sarah felt her head spin. She wanted to ask more, to demand answers, but the figure's words had shattered something deep within her. "The source. What is the source?" Daniel's voice cut through the confusion. He stepped forward, his eyes narrowed, assessing the stranger. And why are you here? The figure lowered their hand, and the pressure on Sarah's chest eased. The source is hidden. It is buried deep beneath the earth, within the very foundation of the house. The figure paused, their gaze shifting, as though looking at something far beyond the present. The house was built over a place that should never have been disturbed. The souls that were sacrificed, the lives lost to its hunger, they are trapped, bound to the earth itself. Sarah could feel a cold sweat break out across her forehead. This wasn't just about a cursed house anymore. This was something much older, much darker. How do we find it? Daniel demanded. His voice was steady, but Sarah could see the edge of fear lurking in his eyes. He wasn't immune to the terror that was rising around them. The figure tilted their head. You cannot find it through force alone. You must listen. You must understand what the house truly is. The land is its blood, the sky its breath. It is not a place, it is a living, breathing thing. And it will not let you go easily. The stranger's words sank into Sarah's mind, settling like a heavy weight in her chest. The land. The house was a living entity, and it would fight back. But how do we destroy it? Sarah whispered. The figure's gaze softened, almost as if pitying her. There is only one way. You must bring it to the surface. You must make it face the very thing it has hidden from all these years. Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. The figure's cryptic words filled her head with more questions than answers. What was hidden beneath the earth? The figure's voice interrupted her thoughts. You will know it when you see it. You will feel it. The darkness that lurks just beneath the surface. The descent. The wind howled around them, and the shadows seemed to stretch, grow, and twist. It was as though the land itself was reacting to the figure's words, becoming more agitated, more restless. We don't have time, Daniel said, his voice urgent. We need to move. Now. The stranger nodded slowly. Follow me. Without another word, the figure turned and began to walk, moving with a purpose Sarah couldn't yet understand. Daniel grabbed her arm, and together, they followed. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble again. The air grew heavy, suffocating. They walked for what felt like hours, but the landscape never changed. It was an endless stretch of barren earth, a world without color, without life. The only thing that remained constant was the oppressive weight of the figure's presence and the endless whispering voices. Finally, they came to a small hill. The figure stopped, turning to face Sarah and Daniel. It is here. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Beneath this hill? Her eyes scanned the area, but there was nothing. No entrance. No sign of what the figure meant. The figure raised their hand once more. You will find it when you are ready. With that, the stranger turned and walked away, fading into the shadows of the earth. Sarah's heart raced as she looked at Daniel, her mind racing. We need to dig. They didn't hesitate. Together, they began to dig into the earth, the sound of their hands against the cold dirt the only noise in the heavy silence. The ground was hard, unforgiving, as if it didn't want to give up its secrets. But after what felt like an eternity, Sarah's hands scraped against something hard. She paused, heart in her throat. Here. Together, they cleared away the last of the dirt, revealing a stone slab, cracked and weathered by time. At the center of it, there was a symbol, an intricate, ancient marking that Sarah didn't recognize. The air grew colder, and the ground began to shake violently beneath them. This is it. Daniel's voice was grim. He knew that once they opened this, there would be no turning back. The stone slab began to shift, groaning as it slowly lifted. A dark, suffocating void opened up before them, and Sarah could feel it, the pull. A presence that was ancient, powerful, and full of rage. With a final push, they threw the slab aside. And what emerged was the thing that had been hiding in the dark. The source.